Hello, it's Scott Manley here. It's October 15th and it's another Deep Space Network. Now we're going to start out with George Takei, better known as Hikaru Sulu from Star Trek. He was of course the original navigator and by far the best sword fighter on the Enterprise. Only because, Klingons don't actually use swords, they use this bat'leth thing. But regardless, he is continuing to produce interesting stuff as he grows old gracefully. Yes, George Takei is producing a TV series, or a web series, called Takei's Take, where he more or less talks about interesting internet type things like online dating and, Google Glass and other things which are ripe for comedy. He introduces various guests and other stuff, but yeah, it's an interesting enough show. You should check it out if you're a fan of, heroes from the 1960s. Take a look.
Welcome to Takei's Take, a new show about what I know best, the internet. You may know me from Facebook. Now I'm trying out YouTube. Oh my.
As George Takei would say, oh my. Yes, that is Takei's Take. Check it out. There's probably a subscription link somewhere around here. Little known fact about George Takei is that in the 70s he got into politics, and during the filming of the original Star Trek motion picture he had to actually leave the set and rush over to take the deciding vote to create the LA subway system. So if you have ever used that form of transportation, you owe it to the navigator from the Enterprise. Go figure. Speaking of other heroes of spaceflight from the 1960s, we should remember Scott Carpenter, who passed on this week. He was, of course, one of the original Mercury 7. He was the second guy to orbit the Earth in his Mercury spacecraft, which he called the Aurora 7. He never had any other space flights, but he did he went into research basically in the oceans and actually spent 30 days underwater, which is pretty impressive. The guy went to space and he went deep underwater. How many people can say they did both of those things? And from the first Aurora pilot to a new generation of Aurora pilots, Star Citizen had its 1-year anniversary celebration. They had a live webcast, which was unfortunately a complete mess because they tried to fit a 5 megabit stream up a 1 megabit connection. I don't know exactly what went wrong, but they did not have enough bandwidth to send the stuff to YouTube, so YouTube was lagging behind and it was looking terrible. And so I think when everybody started to sing happy birthday, YouTube basically euthanized the stream because it was such a mess. Thankfully they recorded the whole thing and it is up, so you can see all the videos and all the studios all over the world that are working on this thing. For everyone that believes it's a Ponzi scheme, well, you may still be right, but at least now there's people all over the world in all these studios that will at least pretend that they're working on it. Seriously though, they introduced a whole lot of interesting concept art, bunch of new in-game videos. They showed a really cool trailer for the Hornet. They introduced models for the Retaliator and the Gladiator bombers, which went on sale for a limited time. And they also introduced a new Aurora model for, it's a new, even better Aurora, which has been designed by a hipster if you look at the commercial. It's on sale for the next week, and I think this Friday you will probably have Hornet variants, but don't quote me on that because we've been waiting on Hornet variants for over a month now. But 1 month is nothing when you consider that this week they discovered lost Doctor Who episodes from almost 45 years ago. The episodes of The Enemy of the World and Web of Fear were found in a locker in Nigeria, of all places. They were the BBC, if you don't know, they had a nasty habit of recording over their videotapes to make room for other things. So many episodes of Doctor Who were in fact lost. But there's always a hunt on to find old episodes, and so you can now go to iTunes and see these lost episodes. There's 9 new ones. There was 11 found in total. And also, we have about a month to go until we have the Doctor Who's 50th anniversary special, which we will all be very interested in, no doubt. Now, while hardcore Doctor Who fans may consider these rediscovered episodes as lost treasures, other people consider things like diamonds to be treasures they're interested in. If so, then head over to Jupiter or Saturn, because new models of the interior have been published based on new discoveries or new experimental measurements of compressed matter at high densities, and they predict that in the lower atmospheres of Saturn and Jupiter, you should not only see crystalline diamond rain, you should see liquid diamonds raining from the sky. If that is not awesome, I don't know what is. The paper is by Mona Delitsky and Kevin Baines. Go and look for it. There's probably a ton of news stories about it. But yeah, diamond rain. How awesome is that? Now, stepping away from theoretical planetology, we come back to actual rocket science. SpaceX have posted the most amazing rocket flight video yet. Or rather, the most amazing short rocket flight video. Their Grasshopper just managed a flight up to 744 meters or thereabouts. That's over 2,000 feet. It went straight up and then it came down and landed right on top of its landing pad. The best part, the whole thing was filmed from the air by a hexacopter, which got right on top of this thing practically. It got so close, it was like, the CGI from Apollo 13. It looked fake, but it was clearly real. This is a really impressive achievement and you should absolutely check this video out. It is amazing. In slightly less global news, over at the House of Manly, I've took note of the number of people commenting on my terrible frame rates in Star Citizen. So I invested in a new graphics card and we shall be fitting this and hopefully getting better frame rates. Now, if you think Star Citizen has enough money already, you might want to check out the Kickstarter for The Mandate, which is a sci-fi RPG spaceship thingy again. It has a really nice demo of their spaceship creator out right now, where you can assemble your ship out of varying parts and then basically burn giant holes in the hull using beam lasers. It's a pretty neat thing. The whole RPG design looks like it's kind of got this Russian aristocracy, turn of the century kind of vibe to it. It reminds me a little of the 1980s version of Dune. But yeah, I totally backed that thing, and I expect you to as well, because it's awesome. Indie developers Double Fine have released Spacebase DF-9 to Steam Early Access. This is, well, a lot of people are describing it as Dwarf Fortress with space stations, but I have yet to actually make that assertion myself. It certainly looks like it's worth messing around with. I played the original prototype, the Space Station DF-9, as part of the Amnesia Fortnite that they did about a year ago. This is completely reworked, it's completely rebuilt from the ground up, now has semi 3D isometric graphics, and much more interesting stuff going on. Check it out, Spacebase DF-9. Now, in the universe of EVE Online and Dust 514, some of the most interesting action in the last few days has been in the Caldari Galente factional warfare zone, where there has been a concerted invasion of the space by the Galente Minmatar forces. What's been most interesting is the battle around the Old Man Star, which the Dust forces on the ground actually had a serious effect upon the game. At one point, the system was vulnerable and was falling to the attacking forces, but then the Caldari forces on the ground in Dust, a game which runs on the PlayStation, not the PC, they were able to put the system back into safe mode through their actions. So for all the people that think that Dust wasn't really having a great effect on the game, it is actually starting to have real effect on factional warfare, and this is a great thing to see. Regardless of whether Dust is a great game or not, I think it's marvelous to see the way these two systems are actually interacting in a meaningful manner. Now, stepping away from the large factional warfare engagements, solo PvP and EVE is still alive, and for the last few weeks we've been watching Tropic 9 of Genos Osider, leaving a trail of destruction across low-sec space in his Kremos, which is basically a super rare frigate, which was a prize for the recent Alliance tournament. It is an Angel frigate that just does ridiculous damage and flies around covert ops style. And yeah, he's had something like 60 solo kills in this. Well, he finally fell victim in his 60 billion-esque spacecraft. He fell victim to Mav Light of Omega, who was flying a Dramiel, and I guess It's not clear exactly what happened, but the target was able to respond to repel the firepower and ultimately keep the target pinned down long enough to kill him. It was really an amazing thing to watch this guy going around soloing in a ship that was worth the price of a super capital. And more power to you. May there be more people like you, sir. Thankfully, a very expensive lost mail is not what happened to Juno. 10 minutes after it had its closest approach to the Earth of 347 kilometers during a gravity assist, it entered safe mode, which is basically it shut down all its systems and turned its solar panels towards the sun, put itself in a situation where it should be most easy to recover. The engineers brought it back online and it is heading towards Jupiter for an encounter in 2016. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.